The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. Sandhahiru Saya offered to Buddha Sasana for the veneration of devotees. Sri Lanka and Bangladesh discuss preferential trade agreement and cooperation in the field of shipping. Minister Udaya Ganmanpilla says that government stopped crude oil imports to manage foreign exchange carefully. Sisusariya school bus service will be fully operational from Monday. In news overseas, Greece begins espionage trial of 24 aid workers. In sports news, Melbourne's Ashes Test and Australian Open will welcome capacity crowds. Local stories in detail. Sandhahiru Saya in Anuradhapura, which was built in memory of fallen war heroes who sacrificed their lives for the territorial integrity of the country and to mark the end of 3 decades of war, was offered this afternoon to the Buddha Sasana for the veneration of devotees. The religious ceremony was held under the patronage of the Mahasangha and with the attendance of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The pinnacle of the stupa was unveiled amid the chanting of Pirit by the Mahasangha. Constructions of the stupa commenced on a concept of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa when he was the president. Military personnel contributed their labour to build the stupa, which is 283 feet in height. The President and Prime Minister made the first flower offerings to the stupa. Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka, Professor G.L. Peiris, called on Prime Minister Sheikha Hasina at her office in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Minister Professor Peiris briefed the Prime Minister of Bangladesh on Sri Lanka's success in containing the COVID-19 pandemic and on a wide range of current issues. Particular attention was paid to progress towards a preferential trade agreement and cooperation in the field of shipping. The Prime Minister described to Minister Professor Peiris initiatives taken by her government to embark on an extensive digitization program and to enhance the disposal income of farmers. Increased airline connectivity between Colombo and Dhaka and tourism sectors was also discussed. Minister Professor Peiris is in Dhaka to assume the vice chair of IORA at the 21st meeting of the Council of Ministers. Energy Minister Udaya Ganmanpilla says that government stopped crude oil imports to manage foreign exchange carefully. During a media briefing in Colombo today, he said dollars cannot be earned by staging protests and trade unions should understand it. He said that the responsibility of trade unions is to support a decision taken to safeguard the institution. The minister pointed out that even powerful countries in the world are facing an energy crisis at present. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with local stories, Sisusariya school bus service of Sri Lanka Transport Board will be fully operational from Monday. General Manager of SLTB Panduka Swarnahansa said that all 741 buses allocated for the service will be operated from Monday. Filling of water to the main tunnel of Broadlands hydropower project took place this morning under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The ceremony was held online from the temple trees. It is the final hydropower project of the Lakshapana power project. It will add 126 gigawatts of power annually to the national grid. Director General of the National Defence Studies Institute and an expert on international terrorism, Professor Rohan Gunaratna says the Easter Sunday attack was not a result of a conspiracy. He said it was due to hatred created by the ideology of Zahra and Hashim and other terrorist groups. He said that the attack could have been prevented if the then government acted on the information given by intelligence services. Professor Gunaratna emphasized that contribution of intelligence units is important to prevent global terrorism taking place either locally or regionally. The Health Ministry says another 372 coronavirus patients have been discharged after recovering from the virus within the past 24 hours. This brings the COVID-19 recoveries in the country to 525,560. Over 14,100 patients infected with the virus are undergoing treatment across the island, while confirmed cases so far are 553,772. The Seva Vanita unit of the Sri Lanka mission in Geneva, comprising staff members and spouses through various fundraising activities, collected the funds and donated 8 oxygen concentrators to be used in government hospitals in Sri Lanka treating COVID-19 patients. The donation was presented at a ceremony held at the Foreign Ministry in Colombo. Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolumbage handed over the donation to the State Minister Professor Channajaya Sumana and Secretary to the State Ministry Dr. RMSK Ratnayaka. Several changes have been made in the police department during the last 2 years. There were 494 police stations in the country when President Gotabaya Rajapaksa assumed office. It has been increased to 552 by now, and the target is to establish 700 police stations. The background has been created for a woman police officer to become the IGP. For the first time, 4 women DIGs have been appointed, and a woman police officer has been appointed as an OIC. The CID has been restructured. Underworld activities have been controlled by 95%. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. Sandhahiru Saya offered to Buddha Sasana for the veneration of devotees. Sri Lanka and Bangladesh discuss preferential trade agreement and cooperation in the field of shipping. Minister Udaya Ganmanpilla says that government stopped crude oil imports to manage foreign exchange carefully. Sisusaria school bus service will be fully operational from Monday. That ends the local news.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Vidya Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vidya Mahatmya.
On the main news story, Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. Hemantha Herath says the aim of the health service is to normalise the country soon. He said it is the responsibility of all stakeholders to prevent gathering of people for various events. He pointed out that health authorities are making strenuous efforts to protect the people from the virus and to prevent it being spread. Therefore, Dr. Herath said everyone in the country should support health and other services to control COVID. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vidya Mahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
Watch Life is brought to you by
Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
Moving on to Watch Light. The regulatory prices for 60 varieties of essential drugs have been announced by the State Ministry of Pharmaceutical Production, Supply and Regulation. Accordingly, a maximum retail price has been imposed on 131 types of 60 essential drugs. Secretary to the State Ministry, Dr. RMSK Ratnayaka, said the general public can inform the State Ministry of any irregularities through the email address complaints@nmra.gov.lk. That ends Watch Light.
Be aware before you follow any vocational course. When you select a training institute, check and verify its registration and course accreditation by Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission (TVEC) without wasting your valuable time and money. Visit and meet skills development officers or career guidance practitioners. Visit www.tvec.gov.lk for more information. Message from Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the World News. Greece begins espionage trial of 24 aid workers. Shares plunge in India's biggest ever market debut. Chinese real estate giant Evergrande sells its entire stake in film and television streaming company. More than 24 aid workers will go on trial in Lesbos over their role in helping migrants reach Greece between 2016 and 2018 today. The defendants face a raft of charges including espionage, forgery and the unlawful use of radio frequencies. Human rights groups have condemned the trial as being politically motivated, and Amnesty International has called the charges farcical. Lesbos, the island at the center of the migration crisis, will host the trial. Shares in Indian digital payments platform Paytm have plunged by more than 20% on their Mumbai stock market debut. The company raised $2.5 billion in the country's biggest ever initial public offering. Some investors have voiced concerns about the loss-making Paytm's business model. The firm counts Chinese payments giant Ant and Japanese technology group SoftBank amongst its biggest backers. Crisis at Chinese real estate giant Evergrande is selling its entire stake in film and television streaming company Hengten for $273 million. The move comes as the world's most indebted developer has been struggling to meet interest payments on its loans. In another sign of the cash crunch in China's property market, another big firm is reportedly raising fresh funds. Trading in Country Garden Services was suspended today as it looks set to sell $1 billion of new shares. To end the world news, the headlines again. Greece begins espionage trial of 24 aid workers. Shares plunge in India's biggest ever market debut. Chinese real estate giant Evergrande sells its entire stake in film and television streaming company. That ends World News.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take all out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070-400-1928.
Moving on to development news, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa ceremonially opened the Kandy new wastewater management system yesterday in the presence of Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Mizukoshi Hideki. The project, assisted by JAICA, will benefit over 300,000 people, which include both residents in Kandy and daily visitors. As a sewerage treatment plant is installed, it will improve the water quality of the Mahavali River, one of the major water sources in the country. That ends development news.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070-400-1928.
Moving on with sports news.
On sports news, we take a look at cricket and Formula One news. On cricket, England's Ashes Test against Australia in Melbourne and next year's Australian Open tennis tournament will welcome full crowds after COVID-19 restrictions were eased in the state of Victoria. State Premier Dan Andrews said there would no longer be limits on gatherings at major sporting events. The 5-Test Ashes series starts on 8th December at the Gabba in Brisbane, which is at the moment can be 75% full. Meanwhile, tennis' first Grand Slam is due to begin on 17th January at Melbourne Park. In Formula One news, with 3 races left in a thrilling 2021 Formula One season, the sport heads to a new territory this weekend, Qatar. The state is to host a Grand Prix for the first time in F1 history. Red Bull's Max Verstappen, looking for his first world title, holds a 14-point lead as he aims to stop Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton, winning a record-breaking 8th Drivers' Championship. That ends sports news.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency through NSB U-Trust for 6 months consecutively. Send more money and increase the chances of winning.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Sunshine Holdings reported robust revenues and profits for the 3 months to September as the conditions favoured its healthcare cluster while the agribusiness benefited from higher palm oil net sales average. The company reported revenues of 8.46 billion rupees in its fiscal second quarter ended in September. The company reported earnings of 1.44 rupees a share or 383.3 million rupees for the period, up 68% from the same period last year. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners.
And on economic news, the ICT industry of Sri Lanka, with its sub-sectors including IT or ITs and telecommunications, is projected to generate $1.8 billion revenue by 2022. Furthermore, it is to become a $3 billion industry by 2024 through export revenue, entrepreneurship, innovation and digital adoption, creating over 300,000 direct jobs and enabling 1,000 startups in the country. ICTA, along with the industry stakeholders, estimates that the current IT or IT's industry contribution to the economy is around $1.2 billion. That ends economic news.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, brings Nanasa app, a trilingual educational mobile app for online learning. With video-based lessons from grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with the Nanasa app. No subscription fees. Download via Google Play Store, App Store, Huawei Store or Windows. Dialogue, the future today.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Met Department says showery condition is expected to reduce by tomorrow. Several spells of showers will occur in western, Sabragamua, central and northwestern provinces and in Galle and Matra districts. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in Uva and eastern provinces during the evening or at night. That ends the weather report.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, brings Nanasa app, a trilingual educational mobile app for online learning. With video-based lessons from grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with the Nanasa app. No subscription fees. Download via Google Play Store, App Store, Huawei Store or Windows. Dialogue, the future today.
And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. Sanda Hirusaya offered to Buddha Sasana for the veneration of devotees. Sri Lanka and Bangladesh discuss preferential trade agreement and cooperation in the field of shipping. Minister Udaya Ganmanpila says that government stopped crude oil imports to manage foreign exchange carefully. Sisusaria school bus service will be fully operational from Monday. In news overseas, Greece begins espionage trial of 24 aid workers. In sports news, Melbourne's Ashes Test and Australian Open will welcome capacity crowds. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news